Welcome to Channel AMAC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about Migrate to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side. So once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one getting all the insight. Now obviously we have gone through a very exciting month with the opening of the skill migration. All the state and territories criteria has already been announced, apart from New South Wales. I just don't understand how New South Wales could drag their policies all along until today. They have not even announced their skill occupation list. I've guessed, as I had spoken before, they must have been waiting for the skill and the job summit to be completed, which was yesterday. So obviously I think we are expecting perhaps next week, earliest as Monday, the state of New South Wales will then announce their further criteria and also with their occupation list. So bear in mind just to subscribe to my channel, share my video and channel to your friends. Now if you really like our content and our channel, perhaps you may want to donate and sponsor us by clicking on that button down right there. Before I think just right beside the likes and things where it says thank. So that super chat thank, you may want to press that and give us a little bit of the sponsorship and the donations. Okay, anyway, now what are we going to talk about today? So obviously we have learned that the government of Australia has agreed to actually bump and boost up the migration annual intake from 160,000 to 195,000. The video yesterday, and I think a lot of other news media nationwide and internationally has already announced all that information. Despite that, it's still a little bit less than what Canadians is actually offering, but I think Australia will still have that competitiveness to actually attract all the bright and skilled migrant into Australia. So what we're going to discuss today is the topic, as you have just read, your migration ratio has actually increased 30% chance of success. Now how do we know that? Let's go back to the actual historical data, and also the number will actually show that. Now, by means, you have better chance because of the more quota, and the criteria will actually lower it down. Let's have a look some of the news, and then I will bring you straight to the stats where I could actually predict how I actually predict through the past 3 years, starting from when I start this YouTube channel and the platform for everybody. Okay, now this news comes from ABC. Now it's not news anymore, as everybody already being bombarded with all this information from Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, medias everywhere. So obviously skilled migrants cap increase, which is good, very welcome, and most of these numbers increase are going to use on the general skill migration, including the state nominations. So although there's only a little bit given to some regional and the business investment and the global talent, but I believe that will continue to grow into next financial year, because currently the government, the nation of Australia, is seeking ways to solve its skill shortage issue. So getting skill shortage issue sorted, they obviously need those skilled migrant with a younger age. Now there are some media coming out talking about, oh, this is just once off, next year they will drop it back again, this is going to be a lie. There's just a government is playing around with the migration policies. Now my view, I don't think so. I don't think that's the government of Australia, the Labor government, is going to play this game. Why do I say that? Well, it's pretty simple. Australia as a nation has gone through 10 years of shrinking and decreasing migration quota, and then obviously in 2020 the world has actually experienced a century pandemic, which has caused greatly economic sense everywhere around the world, and there's war broke up in Europe, and also the inflation and all the situation doesn't look too good looking at the stock. Now, as a nation of Australia, how they have done it previously, starting from end of World War II, every time they meet those economic battles, they always use migration as a way, as a policy to balance the economy back. So I don't think this is going to be once off, and I believe it's going to go for another easily 3, 5, perhaps top 10 years as we're looking into the cycle, because the last we will show you the stats of where that cycle is in this video. So anyway, let's come back to this news. Skill migration cap increase. So again, just to reiterate, the number has increased 35,000 to 195,000. Now it's a pity that they just don't want to meet that 200k and 5,000 short, which makes not much of differences. But again, my argument is they just don't want to get that 200 for political reason. But for that 5,000, I think they have already given that 5,000 out between the month of July, August, or we have seen that with all the state nomination, the interim allocations, and also the invites of 189 visa. So I think those one will already cover those 5,000. So altogether, it will be really, if we are on the July 2023, looking back into the stats, I think they will be meeting that 200k pretty close anyway. So that's the news there. I won't repeat back again, as we have gone through that yesterday on yesterday's video. Now the next news is, let's move that a little bit. This is from SBS with the topic saying that the government lift migration cap to 195,000, committing. I think this is new information, so I wanted to share with you. Commit $36 million to fix the visa backlog. I think that's a very important thing as well, as the Minister of Immigration, Andrew Giles, had also said about the money that's committed by the government. It's actually very welcome, because if you watch the whole show on the Job and Skills Summit, they were reluctant to put money into the childcare subsidy. I think they say it's too great. Rather than that, they wanted to fix the economy first, because getting that child subsidy, although it's important, but not as prioritized as migration. See, migration is really a way, and also I'll say it's an economic weapon that the government of Australia had always been used over the past 30, 40, perhaps maybe almost 100 years. So anyway, we can see the importance of migration for Australia, as they can see there will be a direct economic impact, which is going to be a positive impact for sure. That's why the money has been throwing 36 million to fix, and I believe the Minister of Immigration, Andrew Giles, has said that there will be additional 500 case officers, immigration officers, will be trained and implemented into the system to help this out, and that's including all that money will be used in there. So we are expecting, here we go, 500 staff to fix that with the $36.1 million, and that basically we are expecting, and we have already experiencing the visa processing has been hastened, has been faster, has been much quicker, much more. I think in the coming future month, it will be much quicker. So we are expecting something like, for example, the business innovation visa has been backlogged of 2 or 3 years. Now that I think will be sorted within a year and a half. And the skill visas, a lot of people have been waiting for 2 and 3 years as well. I think you probably will start to receive those requests and update information to get your visa finalized as soon as possible. So that's a good thing. Now, last but not least, I've actually got, as I had spoken at the beginning of this video, we're gonna look into the stats. So what I have done is I actually went into the this is the migration stats let's see, back in 2020 or 21. Here we go, 2020, 21. Why are we looking at this? Because we're looking into the historical stats and compared to what we have actually been receiving the information yesterday. So I've just scrolled down to where the actual annual permanent intake figures to actually show you. Now, you may want to search this, but anyway, it might not make any sense for you. But let me just magnify that a little bit more. Okay, so as you can see, if we move downwards towards, you see that there, starting from 2010 to 11, the annual intake was 168,000. Growing on to 2012 and 2013, meeting that 190,000. Now, that was the top of Australian history's permanent intake per year back in those days, and then starting to drop until 2019 and 20, 140. I think that's because of the pandemic and things start breaking up, and 160. As you can see, that cycle there of that 10 years of dropping, but the top was 190,000 back in 2012 and 2013. Now, what are we seeing here? We have just learned that in 2022 and 23, our annual intake has increased up to 195,000. That means this year we are expecting the most record permanent intake of Australian history. And that, how would that like? Now, if I recall back in 2012 and 13, the general skill migration flows like river. There is no blockage. And that's why I call it's a golden age of immigration period has actually came back. And that will go for easily 3, 5, up to 10 years, as we have just seen the cycle. As you see that there, the cycle whole year, this is 10 years of cycle going from up to 2012 and then drop straight down to 2022. Without obviously this table doesn't show 2021, 22 because this is actually a data report back in 2020 and 21. So that 10 years of drop will also bounce with a it's an economic cycle anyway. So once we hit that low in 2019, we're expecting the going up, and that is expected to go up much higher than which is already set to be higher, and with a record high of Australian immigration history. Now, if we're looking into the actual joint media release yesterday by the Minister of Home Affairs, Claire O'Neill, and what I'm gonna want to show you is, rather than continue going on that 195,000 thing, if we scroll down to the bottom, we'll see that the skill stream within this 195,000 is going to be 142 and 400 places. Now, I think a lot of these will also including the increase of business innovation, also global talent, but most of them will actually be used on the general skill migration. If we look back into the stats here, and we're looking at the first column where it says skill, look at this. When it was back in 2012 and 13, the top of the record previous 10 years, when the annual intake was 190,000, the skill stream is only 128,973 in that year. Now, what we're gonna expect this year is more than that, 142,400. Now, and that is why I'm saying there is actually 30% increase of chances and success to migrate to Australia compared to all the previous data, because the allocation is much more. If you look at the family here compared to that one there, 52, and back then was 60,000. So they actually decrease the number for family migration, but move more towards the skilled migrants. So that's what I wanted to show you, a little bit of a stats. So what I do and what we do in this channel, we don't just announce information, news, and also the policies, but we actually go into detailed stats to actually pinpoint those trends. And that's how we have done it for the past few years with this YouTube channel, that we can actually predict quite well and accurate in those trendy immigration trend that's coming up. Now, a lot of people may ask me, so what's coming up next? I think what we're gonna see, there will be a reform employment sponsor visa, which I've seen some of the news previously, and how that's gonna be reformed, we don't know. But I think the trend is going to relax and make the visa much easier to be accessible in the future. Anyway, should you have more question, query, more than welcome to leave comment right down below, and I'll see you next video. Goodbye.